That's the thing that a lot of boxing fans don't understand. The dimensions. The dimensions, they don't understand the significance of the boxing dimensions in boxing IQ. So what do I mean when I say dimensions? I mean the different ways that somebody can beat you. But when you talk about somebody like a Terence Crawford, you talk about the dimensions that they have. You talk about the fact that Terence Crawford can fight you on his back foot. He can fight you from a distance on his back foot. He can fight you in close because he knows how to fight in close. Okay? He can counterpunch you. He can pot shot you. He has so many different ways that he can beat you. So many different ways that he can approach a fight. And then he can switch it. And then he has power in both hands. And then he's super accurate. And then he's a warrior. He's tough. He has a good chin. He's just a really good, well-balanced fighter. The dude is just, he's the real deal. He's always been the real deal. But for some people, I mean, maybe they needed this fight in order for them to see that he was the real deal. I mean, there was a lot of people that I heard coming into this saying that, you know, they needed to see how he performed against Shawn Porter in order to know whether or not he was a credible welterweight. I mean, come on. I think even Porter was surprised as to how well Bud was able to disseminate the information that was presented to him. How well Bud was able to piece together that puzzle, which is Shawn Porter's style. Shawn Porter has been able to get away with doing what he does to everybody. Every other guy that Shawn Porter has been able to fight has not been able to slow him down in a way to get him to this point. Shawn Porter was surprised. Like, this was surprising. Bud figured him out. Bud figured out the timing and the distance and the angles. Bud had a lock on it early on, but only got better and more efficient with it as time went on. You know what I mean? Terence Crawford did the same thing to Shawn Porter that he does to all his opponents. I mean, let me say that again for the people in the back. Terence Crawford did the same thing to Shawn Porter that he does to all his opponents. Shawn Porter wasn't even Terence Crawford's toughest fight. If we really want to keep it a stack, if we really want to keep it real, Shawn Porter wasn't even Terence's toughest fight. Gamboa was a tougher fight. Gamboa was a tougher fight than Shawn Porter. You could probably even say Mean Machine was a tougher fight than Shawn Porter.
Who's best welterweight in the world?
Respectfully, Terence Crawford.
And you know, that's the thing, man. Like, this is before the fight, right? Sean's saying this, right? And that's the thing about this. Sean's saying this before the fight, so he's known this the entire time. He's known this, and everybody knows this. Everybody knows this. But guys want to act like they don't know. They want to say everything aside from what they know. Dudes know that Terence Crawford is dangerous, but they try to downplay his skills. They try to downplay his accomplishments. They try to downplay his resume. They try to downplay everything in order to make themselves feel better, in order to lie to the public and mislead the people. Shawn Porter just admitted that Terence Crawford was the best welterweight. He's fought both Keith Thurman and Errol Spence. But even though he's been in the ring with both of those guys, he still says that Terence Crawford is the best welterweight. You think there's a coincidence that these fights haven't happened? You think it's a coincidence that we haven't seen a lot of these guys in the ring? It's no coincidence. It's because these guys know what Shawn Porter just said. Let me play it one more time for the people in the back.
Who's best welterweight in the world?
Respectfully, Terence Crawford.
The best welterweight in the world. Best welterweight in the world. And you know, unfortunately, a lot of Errol Spence fans are just not gonna. I think that's what hurts their pride the most. Not just that Terence Crawford was able to beat Shawn Porter, because I think a lot of people were expecting Terence Crawford to beat Shawn Porter, right? Even though a lot of Spence fans wanted Terence Crawford to lose. I've even heard some go as far as to say they want to see Terence Crawford humbled. I've even heard that a few times. But beyond that, I think that what hurt a lot of Spence fans, and I think even Errol Spence himself, what hurt them the most was to see that Terence Crawford did the same thing to him. Terence Crawford did the same thing to Shawn Porter that he does to all his opponents. So what does that mean? It doesn't mean that the opponents that he's fought thus far were all bums. No, that's not what that means. What that means is they were all top level opposition, but Terence Crawford is just that damn good. That's what that means. That's what that really means. Terence hasn't been fighting bums up until now. No, that's all bunk. You know why that's bunk? Because Shawn Porter wasn't even Terence Crawford's toughest opponent. Yuriorkis Gamboa was tougher than Shawn Porter. And at welterweight, Mean Machine was a little tougher than Shawn Porter. And yes, styles make fights. But again, when the Errol Spence people make arguments like, well, Terence Crawford ain't fought nobody. Terence Crawford ain't fight nobody. He's just knocking out bums. Well, now he has Shawn Porter on his resume. You and everybody has admitted that Shawn Porter is not a bum and he's a credible guy. And according to a lot of people, he has the best resume at 147 pounds. That's what y'all say, right? He got the best resume at 147 pounds. Okay, so we all acknowledge him as a credible opposition, and Bud was able to do the exact same thing to him that he did to everybody else who he's fought at this point. Shawn Porter took a ticket, punched a ticket, and waited in line, and the same experience that everybody else got, the same ride that everybody else got, Shawn got.
Who's the best welterweight in the world?
Respectfully, Terence Crawford.